Did you hear about Bernie Sanders blasting Disney when he was in Anaheim, home to Disneyland, saying the company lowballs its workers, treats them like you know what, they're underpaid, underappreciated. Well, Disney CEO Bob Iger responding via Facebook to Bernie Sanders, we created 11,000 new jobs at Disneyland in the past decade, and our company has created 18,000 in the U.S. In the last 5 years, how many jobs have you created? What have you contributed to the U.S. economy? Adding this final line, so there. All right, it's childish. Larry Glazer, fortunately, is never childish. But what do you think of that response? He just took him on, Larry. He said, look, we don't know what you've been up to. We've been up to creating a lot of jobs for folks.
You know, Neil, it just shows you just how contentious this Democratic primary in California is really going to be. And it's no surprise that this spat can happen, particularly when it comes to a big employer in California and Bernie, who's got very strong views. What is surprising is that Disney was the target. I mean, this is one of the great American success stories. It's also one of the great success stories in Southern California. And they've actually increased employment by 65% in the past decade at Disneyland. So this is a company that's actually grown its employment base. It's also competing globally. I mean, they're able to export that content, those movies, their brand all over the world in a really competitive media business. So I think we need to be careful about chasing our employers out of this country. And look, we're in this together, right? It's got to be politicians and business together, working together if we're going to grow this economy. And when you sort of got an us against them mentality, it just shows you exactly how far we've come from where we need to be.
You know, we started the show, my friend, you know, talking about protests in Venezuela, and I'm not saying this is a right or left thing. I am saying it's an indictment of
That's right.
Basic ignorance of math. They spent like money was going out of style in Venezuela when the wind was at their back with all the oil revenues, and then it was gone, and then shrinking tax base was gone. 1 out of 5 pay any taxes in this country. Half don't pay any federal income tax at all. And they wonder what happens when the music stops. Well, in Venezuela is what happens when the music stops. Now, I'm not saying that that's inevitable. It doesn't have to be inevitable, but we can't keep going this way. And for candidates to go after companies that at least are hiring, in the case of Disney, whether you like them or not, whether you're big in ESPN or high ticket prices at Disney World and Disneyland, they are getting the job done. They are hiring people. They are doing the very things that candidates bemoan we should see more. But the government isn't doing it. Private enterprise is.
That's right. That's right. Well, look, and there's got to be some balance in terms of CEO pay. And certainly most shareholders, and it's shareholders that own the company, and most shareholders don't mind paying for performance as long as the company is executing. And in the case of Disney, they're one of those companies that did execute. They made $3 billion in the first quarter. And you know what? The CEO is paid a ton of money. But in this particular case, he actually delivered some value. A lot of CEOs are paid and deliver very little value. Those should be the targets.
Bingo.
But look, if you start raising wages arbitrarily at some high level in Disney World, middle-level, middle-class families won't be able to afford to go. And it's already outrageously expensive to travel in this country, to go on vacation. We need to make sure that these types of destinations remain affordable for everyone, and you don't create a regressive tax so that only wealthy people can go to Disneyland. And that's what will happen if you raise wages to an excessive level, which is really what Bernie's asking for right now.
All right, very good point, Larry. And again, you know, I think it's incumbent upon management of companies across the country to be aware of that, and not to have a tin ear to that, and not to be stealing a lot of money from shareholders and rewarding yourself if you haven't done squat. But if you have, if you put up the numbers and been good, then you deserve it. If you haven't, we're going to call you out on this show, and not in my Mickey Mouse voice.